Good evening, everyone. This is a caucus of the Jersey City Municipal Council. Today is Monday, the 22nd day of October in the year 2018. We had a 5:30 p.m. start. It's 5:41 p.m. President roll call, Councilperson Ridley. Prinzeri. Baggiano. Yun. Solomon. Here. We have absent council members Robinson and Rivera. Councilperson Waterman is here, as is our council president. Take it away, Council President.
Okay.
I have a replacement page for 10T. There's a typo. It says that the contract is going to go from January 2018 to December 2018 through January 25th, 2019. So, if you would just... Take one and pass them down, James. President, if you would just be kind enough to... More paper.
Shooting us.
Yeah, January 1st. So,
Let's
fingers
hope.
crossed.
That's not remotely possible.
2020, January 1st, 2020.
No, not at all. I'm not trying to be pessimistic. There's no way.
Thank you.
Jeremy. Yes, sir. Your parting gift.
I appreciate it. We brought the whole band for you, too.
Yeah. Jeremy has 10Q. Q as in no.
So, as you guys know, we've discussed this a couple times. This is a resolution whereby the council would be consenting to the MUA proceeding with a bond offering that we will most likely fund through the Infrastructure Trust Fund, now known as the iBank, to proceed with a series of infrastructure upgrades for the city, most of which are required by the consent order that imposes on the city, on the MUA as its agent, the upgrade of a series of sewer systems for the city that are in dire need of repair. It also includes a couple of emergency repairs that have to be done that have really been hanging out there and either are in the process of being done, we're just waiting for this approval, or are going to start early next year. And it includes funding for the new building that we're all aware of that the MUA is moving forward so we can get off of the 440 site and allow for the remediation to take place there. There was a series of questions about the package, including about the consent order and what were the elements of the consent order, and then the water projects, which is the other big portion that we are trying to pair as much as possible with the consent order, so that when we open the streets, we open them once, do as much work in that hole as possible, and then restore the streets so we're not constantly opening and closing streets throughout the city. With that, I don't know if you guys have any additional questions.
Council members?
Get them off of Monmouth.
Yes, sir. We're working diligently to get them off as soon as possible. Our goal is to get them off within the next couple weeks. Thank you. Council members, questions? You all have the more expanded, the more descriptive information about each of the projects.
So then, can I ask?
Councilman Yun?
Okay, yeah. It's the first things is that I'm so glad to going to spend some money for improved infrastructure. But a couple of things is that, as you know, around 7 months ago, the city council actually gave a consent to issue $150 million bond. So what kind of percentage of you guys just spend out of 180 and 150 million dollars, and which project accomplished, which project is on the way, and how much is the balance is left out of 150 million dollars? So in other words, we don't want to continue JCMUA.
So the first thing to note is, of that 150 million, some of these projects actually are those same projects. So we've added some of those in that needed either more funding or we didn't get to. The way it works is we come in here, we ask for your consent, and then we go out and we do what we can do. So not all of it gets done. So of the 150 million, we borrowed about 50% of that and moved those projects. Right now, of that 50% that we borrowed, are any of the projects still open? Phase 3 and 4, which you'll see some of which is back here again.
So in other words, less than 7 months, you guys are able to spend the $75 million already?
Give or take. Yeah, give or take. So it's not all finished. Like phase 3 is a big, phase 3 and 4 are big projects.
So now, and I can see that if like a sewer project and previously approved by city council for the bond, $12 million, you guys need an extra $20 million. So we understand, but now, if it's $150 million, you only spend half. The way you say, I didn't see that how much you spend, but you say that you spend half, 75 million. So now 75 million that is only good for 6 months. That's what it means?
No, it doesn't work that way. To put it in perspective, this debt request is anticipated to cover us for 3 to 5 years, barring any disaster or emergency. So some years you might get to spend a lot of it. Other years you may not get to spend as much. It depends on how the work gets sequenced, but to do the contracts, for the phasing especially, we have to make the funds available because we have to certify when we go out to the bidding process that the funds are available. So we have to come in and we have to structure the debt, and then we don't actually borrow the money because we're doing it, especially when we borrow from the iBank, we don't borrow the money until the last minute. So sometimes in 6 months we can spend 75. I'm hoping to spend a little quicker than that if we can, because we really have to get this work done. Some of these pipes are 150 years old. You'll see right now on Grand Street, we have.
Instead of new pipeline, we understand that part of it. So now another question is that City of Jersey Council approved their Bayfront project. So now at the time, this city council actually approved that $170 million at the bond, part of the around $40 million for infrastructure. At the time, City Council, I brought the issue to our business administrator, why City of Jersey issue $40 million approximately to bond for infrastructure? Why not JCMUA?
So without answering for the BA, as I don't know what he said, but what I can assure you is, if that site goes to the type of numbers that we're talking about, you're gonna need way more than $40 million in infrastructure. And the sewer infrastructure there, that's in place there, some of it's already in place, some of it's gonna be built out when you guys do it, but I can assure you it's gonna be a lot more than $40 million.
When they JCMU issue bond, they call infrastructure bond like a zero interest bond. But if the City of Jersey issue bond, we gotta pay some interest. See, that's why I ask a business, why don't we, instead we do the infrastructure, why don't you shift to the JCMU, so JCMU can be issue bond like a zero interest. If we issue bond, we have to pay interest. Already, as you know, every year we paid interest for every year, almost $23 million a year, just interest. So what is the reason why we cannot shift to JCMUA? Some bonds, 0%.
The debt we're talking about now, most of it we're going to pay. It's not 0%, it's 0.1. Basically zero. But
our bond, actually, ordinance, we say we can go to pay 8%.
Well,
It depends on what I don't know yet, but what I can tell you is it depends what the infrastructure's for. We borrow for sewer and water lines. If so it just depends on what the infrastructure's for. You guys are going to be responsible for a lot more infrastructure than that.
he's talking about, so we discussed this at the last council meeting and the last 2 council meetings. But so that infrastructure is not just sewers, it's streets, it's energy, it's lots of stuff, and it's quick stuff. That kind of stuff is more, the sewers is more down the road sort of thing. So yeah, I mean, we're not saying we're not going to do MUA bonds, but this is just to get like in the door, so to speak, with infrastructure, the first step.
When you issue bond, the last 150, now we have, how much is it, 550? 550, almost we talk about how much, 105, so $700 million. So I sent the email to the council president. I think a council president probably forward email to you guys that when you issue $700 million in the less than 2 years, how it's going to impact our water rate and sewer rate people of Jersey City. I'd like to have some kind of formula to explain to how it's going to impact the water rate, but I didn't get any report from the
I forwarded that
JCM.
response to the council.
I'm sorry?
I had that response forwarded to the council.
Is that right?
Yeah,
What is it missing?
that was weeks ago, but I will,
So can you explain to us that how it's going to impact our water and sewer rate to pay $700 million bond?
I mean, so the way it works, first of all, is obviously, you know, there's a debt service on this money. We're not gonna borrow $750 million next year. So the impact is not gonna be as significant as I think you think. The way it's gonna work is, as you kind of alluded to earlier, it depends on how fast we can spend the money and do the projects. We will roughly probably have about, how much extra in the budget this year for debt service? 25 million or so in debt service coming off. So we have the money to already on our budget right now to service the next 25 million we borrow anyway. So that'll cover us probably a significant portion of the next quarter or so. And then we start getting into budget increases to service the debt. But as we're going and spending more, old debt is coming off. That's gonna deal with some of it. Some of it, we have additional payers coming on. That'll absorb some of it. And then the rest has to be, as you correctly assessed, dealt with new income. Some of that income is gonna come with connection fees, because as we do these, as we grow as a city, we have to think about our connection fees and who's really responsible for the demands on our infrastructure, which means that developers are probably gonna have to pay a little bit more in connection fees to help us offset some of this debt. Some of it's gonna be coming back through structured payment systems that we're just creating a system now for, which we spoke about the last time we were here, which is we're gonna be doing, some of this is gonna fund large-scale upgrades to whole neighborhoods, Bates Street project, or the Jersey Avenue project, or the Mill Creek project. When we go forward and do the major infrastructure there that some of this is funding, there will be a special assessment, so all the developers in the area are gonna have to share in that cost. We'll go out of pocket for some of that cost because some of it is a net benefit to the system. But the lion's share is to improve land to allow for their development. They'll pay, as part of the special assessment, that cost. They'll pledge that back. That'll cover us to pay down that debt. And some of it will go to the rate. So the last time we were here, we actually explained to you, we gave an assessment of what we think is gonna be the impact to us. And all of it is speculative, so it's hard to give you a firm number, because it depends on a lot of other X factors we don't control. But we think the impact is gonna be a couple dollars to the rate at some point in time. Something like 2.5% to 3% increase over the next couple of years. So that's a marginal impact to our rate.
So Johnny's actually, he's a finance person in the JCMA. You know, when you buy insurance, you say you pay premium $100 a year, but whole life insurance, if you get 20 years later, you expect, you're gonna get this so much if you have something happen, plus you have cash value. Based on cash value calculated 8% to 9%, 10%. Actually, also JCMA can present this council, okay, council, if we issue $100 million, we're gonna be about $700 million. Each year we spend $100 million bond, and if we then issue their case, what if we issue $100 million, they can tell us that at least water rate and sewer how much will be. You know, they're gonna give some ballpark numbers to the council to make them feel comfortable.
2 to 3%.
2 to 3%.
Yeah, that's the ballpark number.
So when you say 2 to 3% means that how much is that by dollar?
What's 2%?
20 cents. So now,
Per
as you-
year.
per year, we heard everybody, the council, if we water rate change more than 20 cents per CCF, right?
Never CCF.
Yes, right? 20 cents per CCF, I guess, right? I'm gonna keep an eye, okay? So if it's more than that, oh, Jeremy not gonna be here. He's gonna go on someplace else. So, he's so smart, that is the problem, but it's
The
okay.
other thing just to keep in mind too is our sincere hope that as we upgrade the system, the need for emergency repairs and the last minute spend, which is the costlier spend, is gonna go down. So there's a lot of factors in there, plus we're gonna be wasting less water, we're gonna be,
Taking clean out of it.
we're gonna be fixing and bifurcating our system so that we're not gonna be paying to treat stormwater, and, so there's a lot of, it's much more complicated.
The last question, when you spend of $700 million, who usually take those kind of a job? By private company or Swiss? Who
No,
could-
it has to go to bid. So the financer requires a certain bid process to approve the financing. So it's a state-run agency that's spending mostly federal dollars. There's a lot of rules about how the procurement goes.
So you guys are talking briefly at each project?
Right?
The only time we don't, for these types of projects, if there's an emergency.
Emergency, except
Yeah, so
emergency,
the
right?
collapses, then,
Because, somebody can be very rich with $7 million.
No, just because of the amount of work, it won't go to one person. It's gonna be broken up, because no one will be able to do all of it.
So local vendors are first?
Always.
All right? So I have to buy their stock, I guess, right? No, they're not even, the issue stuck by the, they're mom and pop stores, okay. So we understand, okay, good. All right,
For the new facility, the 16 million for the facility, did you guys cost out the idea of leasing space instead of building a new facility?
So we did a search, and for the price, it was cheaper for us to buy the land from the city
And build a new,
and build a new facility from brand new, something that we can envision that could last 100 years plus all the things that we need. For example, we're looking to put a water bottling plant on the facility, a hot asphalt plant on the facility, a salt dome on the facility. So it was for what we need, for the needs that we had and for the size of the utilities authority, it made cost-effective sense to buy and build.
did you have a little more, I hear what you're saying, do you have a little more detail on that you could send to us?
We can.
Yeah, that'd be great.
I mean, the only thing to remember about leasing first of all, leasing property is never a good proposition for government, and we learned that as a city going through the last probably 20 years when we started leasing property as an immediate cost saving. Sometimes you get an immediate blip, but as the square footage price goes out, we still had to pay a significant amount of money for the build out, and we were in space that wasn't appropriate, and then we were paying $35 a square foot on the high end for space, and we really shouldn't have been doing that. So that's why the city got out of 30 Montgomery. We're trying to get out of Journal Square because real market rate tenants can pay that stuff, and we don't need to be doing that. And so when you start talking about our space, which is even more tricky because it's industrial space, the fit out is so expensive that that is the lion's share of the cost. So we would have to do that fit out even if we lease the space or not.
Okay, now, another question, and
Councilman James Solomon, they put you $60 million for bond for the JCMUA building. Is include the land, which you're gonna pay for service?
it's going to include the land, yes.
Then what is the actual cost of construction cost?
We don't know yet because we have to go out and figure it out. We're anticipating a general construction cost. What was the square footage price they said that they usually cost? Do you remember, Richard? I don't remember it, but they told us what the.
you guys pay for the land, city.
8 million, right?
7.8, I think it was.
Yeah, around the $8-9 million, right?
But we did work with our engineer, and they told us what a square footage price usually is for a complex like this, and based on that, we're going to get the money, the 50 million, the 60 million. But once we get an architect on board and then they design, then you get an estimate of what it costs, and we can let you know at that point what we actually think the actual spend will be. The goal is to go completely green and a few other things. That makes it more expensive, but it's important to do it right the first time.
John, that's a question. If we issue $700
$1 million, they impact the water lane and sewer lane. That $700 million gonna be will be spread by all our vendors use the Jersey water just only for that the Jersey City water user. This
So
one,
it's actually interesting. Sorry, go ahead.
Basically, the Jersey City water users.
only that price impact Jersey City water user, not.
Because the work is being done in Jersey City. So that would be.
So there are very specific rules about how we can charge people for water. It's all prescribed by the state. So even like our costs, when we do this debt, some of it's gonna get a portion to water, some of it's gonna get a portion to sewage. The rate will adjust based on what the system improvement is. So that'll decide who's gonna pay for what parts of it. So if we were to do an improvement on the aqueduct that was before an outside user, then we can apportion some portion of that to them. But if it's an improvement to the system in the city, it's gotta go against the payers in the city. But that is commercial payers and residential payers. And some of that will be, like I said, connection fees. So there's a whole calculation he has to do before you assess
I
it.
understand you put in the $2 million for
security system for the Boomtown Reservoir. But this council, we give to 40 years lease agreement with that Morris County Park Commissioner. One of the reasons they say they're going to improve security systems and build up the trail course and so on. So now, when I have to spend $2 million improve security fences, so on, we're going to get the reimbursement from the Morris County Park Commissioner? Yes or no?
I don't know about reimbursement, but what we can do for sure is make sure there's no duplication of effort. So there are certain things that we have to do right now to upgrade our security system that we've been asked to do by the state and other agencies. So we're going to do those. But it's a massive site. We could spend $30 million on security there and still have other projects that we need. So we just got to make sure we don't duplicate efforts. So whatever we do, they'll do something more different.
the reason is that I'm asking you.
When we give to this council for the 40 years contract with that Morris County Park Commissioner, one of the reasons, they have like 3 reasons, but one of the reasons is that they're going to improve the security system in that area. So now, instead of they do, we do, then we should be deserved to have reimbursed $2 million.
Well, I don't know if reimbursement is going to work, and maybe it will. We'll certainly ask. But either way, there's more than $2 million of security needed up there, is my point. So
It doesn't matter, even though $2 million, $5 and $10 million.
City of Jersey City Act, we put in our dollars, $2 million, some item they're supposed to do, then we should have a right to deserve that as the reimburse. Then what is the sense to give the 40 years contract lease over to them?
I mean, I think that the point is we need a lot more security up there. So it's going to be good to have more. We got to do some stuff immediately. We can't wait for them, but there's a lot more they can do, including active policing, including additional fencing and lights and things that we're not planning to do.
So when I ask accountability, then
You're not going to be here. Oh, this is the last one.
But I'm leaving you in a safe hands of a great team. Thank you, guys.
Remind me again why you guys, you said 3 to 5 years. Why, put all of this in now versus chunking it up
So
in
because
1 year, 2 year, 3 year increments?
we have to fund the phases, and the way the phases are, they're big contracts. We have to go out and hire the contracts for the phase. You fund the whole phase, but you're not going to build the whole phase in 1 year.
Sure.
So the phase contract might be 2 to 3 years.
Sure.
So that's why it's over time, and you give yourself the window up to 5 years, because if you go in the ground and you find an unanticipated condition, you have to remember, we're going down a space that hasn't been opened up for 150 years. So I can't guarantee that this project's gonna be 6 months or a year. We might go down there might be a changed condition, and then we gotta do whatever.
Sure.
So that's why. Construction works.
John, that makes sense. Some of them are not phases. So for the things that are not phases.
Yes, for the things that are not phases, there'll be more, like, so for instance, the building.
Sure.
We know once we get approvals, we'll go and hire an architect, and then that architect will design, and then we'll do initial feasibilities, and then we'll go and move. So that project is 3 years out. If we hit all our milestones, if we lose a milestone, it goes from 3 to 4 years. Right. That's how that works, and that's probably the most locked-in thing we know for sure. That's how long that's going to take. So that's how it works with because remember, just so you understand, remember, these projects right now are at design phase.
Right.
So that's why the timeline is a little fluid.
Right. And then for this list that you've given us of the intended spend, what flexibility do you guys have internally, if it's approved, to, shift money between projects or shift money to projects that aren't on this list? Like, what's the sort of flexibility you have?
The thing is limited.
Yeah, pretty much the project.
Okay. So you
Once
could.
the IBEC approves it, it's for that project specific, and they go back
The
and
IBank, okay.
they'll follow us along as we go. If we don't hit certain marks with them,
So if you're doing your designing and you find one's gonna be twice as expensive, you do have the ability to shift the funds into that before you go to the IPA? Correct, so just.
Well, after the design.
If the Pine Street is twice as much, you can take some from Oak Creek and put it into Pine Street?
It depends, there's a couple, it depends on water, sewer.
Okay.
We can't, there's certain lines we can't cross. But while we're in design phase, before we complete our application, if we found out that, like, let's say, one of the non-consent order
Yeah.
projects, consent order projects are defined, they have to be done. But there are some in here, like it's a water project. And say we had a water project that was in there and we were planning to do 100 linear feet on whatever street, on Grove, or 1,000 linear feet more, like on Grove, right? And we said, oh my gosh, that's gonna cost us 3 times as much because it turns out that pipe is 10 feet further down than we thought. And we said, okay, we could probably say, okay, we either have to go back and ask for more money, or we could limit the scope of the project. We'd go back with the engineers and say, do we need to do all 1,000 feet, or can we get away with doing 700 feet, or 500 feet? That you might be able to get away with doing, but once the application's in, that feasibility has to already be done, then we have to follow that application. Or go back and get amendments and new approvals.
So another one is that, yeah,
As a, Jeremy, as a CEO of JCMUA, you do one of the great things to people of Jersey is that if any householder who has a financial difficulty to improve the water line from the main to home, you told me that if, because like a $7,000, $15,000, at the time when I bring up the issue, you say the JCMU provide the plan for partial payment plan without interest. So still that program is going on, right?
Yes.
I just want to make sure. So any homeowners,
We're still working with the IBAC for the financing, because there's some technicalities about lending money through the state to a specific person, so we're still working that out, but we're still moving forward with that
so
program.
how many homeowners and property owners?
I mean homeowners in Jersey get the benefit out of the program.
Well, there-
How many have we done installment payments?
Very few,
very few.
very few.
Very few,
Don't
right?
do many.
This
They
is
have to really demonstrate
Right.
that they
Yes,
can't
the
do it.
plan is to fix the income home,
Yeah, yeah.
seniors, so on, so I want to make sure JCMU should be, they promote their program to fix the income housing in Jersey.
see, which is a lot of homeowners is fixed income senior. I think we should be help them too. All right? Okay. Other than that, Jeremy, good luck.
Thank you guys. Thanks very much for
Bye, Jeremy.
Jeremy, you know what that means, right? Very good.
Thank you. Thank you, John. Thank you, Council. Margaret?
You want your regular seat over there, or?
No, I'm fine here. Oh, 10Z7?
10Z7 for Margaret. Folks, this is the execution of a license agreement with NJCU for facility rental and usage.
So the Caucus of Senior Affairs is now administering senior fitness classes. They've taken it over from recreation. So it's swimming, it's walking on the track there, and spin classes on stationary bikes. And so this just allows us to use their facilities on Culver Avenue at the fitness center at NJCU. And it also pays for a swim instructor and a cycle instructor. So it's $300 a month for the next 3 months. And then in 2019, we'll come back and ask to renew it. That's it. Thank you. Good to see everyone.
I'm sorry?
This concerns the city's present contract for janitorial services. We're going to do a month-to-month extension for 3 months while I finalize the revisions to the bid specifications, and we'll be putting it out for bid. It's on the same terms, the same pricing, nothing changes. It's just we're going to be sticking with them for 3 more months because I have to revise the bids, the bid specifications.
This is Temco Building Maintenance.
Correct.
Just for my ignorance, does this cover like every city property? I guess, what is the scope of their
It's janitorial services. Presently, we use them at every property except for the Bethune Center, where we use city staff to perform the janitorial services. This contract, I think we last put it out to bid. It goes to my predecessor. Since then, we've added a few more buildings. I just want to make sure that, you know, everything is tight and we're not doing any extra contractual work orders.
Okay, any questions about that? Hearing none. Thank you. Thank you, Doug.
Thank you.
John Lynch, is he here? John? John has 10-0.
Yeah, it's our yearly place to store the salt underneath the turnpike, so the guys don't have to keep going back and forth to the DPW, and they can get to it and then get out and salt the streets quicker. It's just an indemnification.
Which is the address again?
It's under the North Bay Turnpike, under the extension,
Which streets, sorry?
over by the Montgomery Street area.
Okay, around
Yeah.
Montgomery. Is that where, like, right over Ferris Parks?
Yeah.
John, are you getting liquid salt too?
No, the liquid.
Yeah, I mean, that goes very, but this is just the stockport for the salt. Yeah, yeah.
Okay, John, because the director is not here, so I want to make sure that
You relate my message to director.
Okay.
Number one, Riverview Neighbor Association actually sent a letter to us, my office, and also business administrator, and the Park and Forest regarding for tree trims on the Palisade Cliff, because their which overgrew actually block the view to the people from the high to see the New York City views or downtown view. So the cost of tree trim going to be a fortune, but thank God, Hudson County government willing to provide service to hire the private company to tree trims of Palisade cliffs, you know. Order today go to Jersey City property, they need to have to be approved by Jersey City Council, you know, franchise agreement or municipal service agreement, whatever we have to do. And also Jersey Park and Forest Department sent the tree specialist to tell them which tree can trim or not, so and so. But still, it's almost 4 months, we didn't get any answer from the Park and Forest, so our law department cannot draft a franchise agreement between City of Jersey and Hudson County. Can't you take up the issue as soon as possible?
So is that the email from Roger? I just saw it the other day. If that's the email from Roger, then I'll see it through, okay?
because I spoke to the county government, they waiting for,
Okay.
you know, so please,
Instead of we spend our municipal tax, the county willing to pay, then please let them county do, okay? We just give to them. But in order to do that, which tree, even though which is a tree, so we're gonna make sure that Park and Forest tree specialist mark the which tree they can trim or not, okay?
Okay.
As soon as possible. It's almost 4 months now.
Tomorrow. I saw Roger's email. I'll
John,
work on it.
okay, good, thank you.
Okay. Tanya?
Yeah.
There's a 3D. There's an ordinance adopting amendments to Journal Square 2060. Redevelopment plan to amend height standards in Zone 4 and create a new district, Zone 4A.
After many meetings with mostly folks that live east of Summit Avenue, we...
I'm sorry, I just realized, Councilman Bojangles.
Do you want me to, you want to go, you want somebody?
Give him a second.
November 3rd, we changed the date, and we're doing kickball. This is all on the record, isn't it? Well, we just realized that not all of us know how to play football. When we started to try to list the rules, but we knew kickball. No matter what the sport, I'm just gonna get drunk, no matter what it is. So, this this amendment is in response to, I guess, a number of things. One is definitely from the neighborhood association, and the other one was just from a general look at the existing zoning and the previous zoning and the existing area. So what this really amends are the neighborhoods east of Summit Avenue. And it takes into account the fact that there is an existing neighborhood and an existing fabric, and creates a new zone instead of actually just kind of trying to complicate things and change all of the zoning. Two things, really. We had to create a new zone because there's already been a ton of development, so we have lost some blocks, I would say. And so that really kind of changes the where this would be appropriate. And number two is that it really was just, when we actually looked at it, so I'll back up. One of the previous ways that we used the zone was for height, was for the connection to the street width. And so you would be able to kind of build 40 feet if you had 40 feet street width, and that would be usually from property line to property line, not including sidewalks, right? That's the right of way. And so that got removed in 2000 or whatever it was, and then the Journal Square redevelopment plan, the one that we know today, 2060, believe it or not, actually cleaned up the 2000 zoning, which was the OR and the CBD zoning. You hear a lot of office residential and central business district, and that permitted 10 stories, 150 units an acre in neighborhoods that were still mostly 2-3 stories, 1 and 2 families, maybe sometimes 3 families. The Journal Square 2060 plan took those zones and took those areas and created this Zone 4. And Zone 4 on its face works great until you start incorporating graduated density. So what it was, that was the plan was created to do in that sense. It was created to cause somebody to want to keep buying up properties so that all of these houses would go away and you'd have higher density houses that were within 10 minutes of the path. The reality is that these neighborhoods have been existing for almost decades, let's just say. And so that zoning itself didn't take into consideration the fact that there were thriving neighborhoods that existed. So even though 2060, I would still say is a correction of the zoning that was in place in 2000 for the OR and the CBD, what this does is it tweaks it, and it really kind of takes away, I think, well, I would think, kind of takes away that graduated density benefit and it limiting the height. So. And when I say that, I want to say that with kind of a grain of salt, right? Because the density standard doesn't change. There is no density standard, right? But no matter how many lots you acquire on blocks within the Zone 4A, the height of the permitted building doesn't change. The height will always be tied to the street width. And some other kind of changes that we made were we got rid of some corner bonuses because that was also causing a problem, is that you'd have blocks that were 40 feet wide, which are very narrow, which means that essentially almost you couldn't do a full turnaround to get out of it. And got rid of the corner bonuses because that was permitting sometimes up to 12 stories on blocks next to buildings that were either, still going to continue to be 3 or 4 stories high. And we took the opportunity to kind of tweak the required retail and make it a little bit more sensitive to optional retail into areas that we were noticing just required retail didn't really work or wasn't really necessary. This is a kind of a long time coming. I know the councilman will say that right without question, and probably part of the reason that it took so long is that we were delicate in what sometimes people call downzoning, but I would say that this is not really downzoning because we didn't take away any density, but we really just kind of, I would say, corrected the zoning is the term that I think is really the most appropriate.
Lisa was supposed to get back to a couple of people in the community. Are you set with Amy last week?
Michelle.
Yeah. And what happened with that meeting? I haven't spoken to Amy.
That meeting was our one of our first meetings with all of the neighborhood associations. So that was a citywide neighborhood association sit down with city planning. We hope to do those in maybe a biannual kind of process, but when we broke up into the geographic areas in particular, Erica is here. I was not in that group long enough to really kind of tell you what exactly happened. So the day, it wasn't really a day, but the morning was broken up into, general broader zoning topics and then geographic issues later in the afternoon. I'm not 100% sure if anything other outside of parking. Yeah.
Of everything that transpired and what's going to happen?
Yes, I mean, it's fine, it really wasn't a meeting.
No, not the meeting, I mean the new 2060 plan.
Say it again?
The 2060 plan, the total of
Oh,
everything.
absolutely, yeah, with the changes. Absolutely, of course.
Any other questions? Can I just bring the three sheet?
Every time they talk about the Journal Square 26th redevelopment plans, when you amend, the major concern is that your word D, because when they change it, this is not to change the density of that area, so fine. But when they change the density in the Journal Square area, that very give the negative impact in the Heights area, because overcrowd actually bring up the very overcrowd and the mass transport systems, like a bus in 1987. So when the bus left it, Journal Square, when they come to Georgia City High, actually there was no room for any passengers. So please, I want you to make sure that any development of Journal Square to pay attention on the density issue. That's number one. Number two, as your new director of a planning department, they have a municipal parking lot located in Newark Avenue between Summit and the Kennedy Boulevard. They're the two municipal parking lots. That land actually is owned by the City of Jersey. We transfer the ownership to the JCRA, and the JCRA, I heard that they sold the land to one of the developers. At that time, when that change of ownership matters, when you discuss this council, I bring up the issue. Because in order to make them give us some sharpers parking, that's the only two municipal parking lot for that area. At the time, David Donnelly make a clear statement to this council, even though they do any project going on, they want to make sure to provide municipal rate parking space. So any project come from the redevelopment agency to municipal parking lot, and those are lot for any development project, make sure their plan provide municipal parking rate space, like around the 40, all right? But I heard the rumor, yes, they're gonna build a parking space, but private parking space. In other words, market rate. Nobody gonna be shop the area, pay parking, market rate the parking, and they're gonna shop, no.
Councilor, so the RFP and this property was sold for $11 million. The RFP clearly stipulated that they had to provide public parking in there, and we just had a JCRA meeting and discussed that very publicly as well.
Municipal parking rates a parking space available, okay? That's what that David Donnelly can make a step to this council, okay?
This is the homestead extension, right?
But he's not here, he's gone. Yes. So I don't want you to think so happen. So make sure, okay? Okay. All right, okay.
Thank you, John.
Thank you. Let's see. Let's put up Andrew. Andrew has 3B and 3C.
3B is an ordinance establishing right turn on red restrictions at approximately a dozen intersections in Ward E.
Any questions? Hearing none, vote. 3C.
3C is an ordinance that designates 3 intersections as all-way stop intersections, 8th and Manila, Zabriskie and Columbia, and Zabriskie and Liberty. These were all initiated through C-Click Fix.
Question. When we put the traffic changes, when we pass those ordinances, how long before you guys actually go out and put up the new signs?
So for a stop sign?
Yeah, like is there a standard?
Yeah,
amount of
so the
time?
ordinance goes into effect 20 days after passing, so we generally try to get it as close to that as possible.
When is that stop sign coming down on Livonia?
This week.
You sure?
Yes.
Because this has been going on for 2 weeks now. Either that or somebody's gonna end up tearing it down.
And Andrew, just the way you say, even the city council passed in the second reading, even though we have the 20 days waiting period, then actual signs go take a lot of time. So I like you keep an eye for. And how many signs, is outstanding, how many signs is, so we need some, because we know that Lincoln Street, they're supposed to do that, so please keep an eye for, okay?
You're saying there's
Signs
are missing?
So what was the last time we proved that?
Lincoln?
Yeah.
All right, I'll check on that.
Also the one at Merritt Street, down by Perry's Woods, the always stop.
Got it. All right, thank you very much.
Okay. All right.
Thank you, Andrew.
How about 3C? That was 3C?
That was 3C.
That was 3C.
Yeah.
3B and 3C.
Jared, you might want to stick around for this one.
Okay.
This is John McKinney.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Where's John?
John was right outside, so I saw him wandering out back. I can start.
Get going.
It's 3E. So this is as well as Maureen. Yeah. And John and Joe and the Verizon team. And so it's an ordinance authorizing the execution of a rights-of-way use agreement between the City of Jersey City and SQF LLC, doing business as Tilson, to permit the installation of antennas and related communications equipment on existing utility poles and streetlight fixtures, and if necessary, to install new or replacement streetlight fixtures and utility poles within certain public rights-of-way for purposes of providing telecommunications services. Who wants to speak?
For the record, my name is Maureen Hopkins. I'm here from SQF. SQF is a competitive local exchange carrier, a public utility in the state of New Jersey, and we have partnered with Verizon Wireless to bring network capacity and coverage solutions to them here in the state of New Jersey, but more specifically in Jersey City. What we are looking to do is to replace some of the existing streetlight fixtures with upgraded streetlight fixtures that can house Verizon Wireless equipment. And the purpose of that is to solve some of the capacity and connectivity problems that people are experiencing in Jersey City. These are not meant as a substitute for towers or the large macro sites that you see on rooftops. These are very surgically placed to offload capacity in places where people tend to congregate, places where people are using very data-intensive applications. And also to solve some of the problems that we've seen with some of the recent development in Jersey City with some of the large buildings that are shadowing some of the existing infrastructure, making it hard to connect. So these are really getting down to the street level. Some of the things that you may find are a lot easier are placing and completing calls using GPS. I know when I take an Uber to Jersey City, sometimes they get lost just because the GPS can't connect. So the purpose of these is to solve some of those connectivity issues.
The list that's provided here in the back are the different locations.
That's correct.
So this isn't a citywide project, this is just strictly downtown?
These are just locations that we're looking at right now. I expect within the next year or so we would be back asking for approval for additional locations, but these are the ones that are currently on Verizon's development plan.
Most of the capacity issues, my understanding Hmm? According to them. Yeah.
It's a line of sight technology, so it's still working in the other sections of the city as it had before because the buildings haven't gone up there. But downtown, with all the development that's been happening with high-rise buildings, essentially is interfered with the line of sight, so you can't get the connectivity.
The Verizon Wireless RF engineers are getting real-time feedback from their network, so they're seeking to place these in locations where they're getting signals from their network evaluations of their problems.
So this is more like a repeater?
It's kind of like a repeater. It's more like a little mini cell tower, very low powered with a very limited range.
So then,
Something came, right.
So I actually was here before on behalf of Verizon Wireless. So Verizon Wireless Verizon Wireless has a resolution from the council allowing them to attach to existing wood poles that are owned by either Verizon New Jersey or PSE&G in the city. Verizon Wireless does not have the ability or the desire to own streetlight fixtures, so they've asked us, in our capacity as a public utility, to own that infrastructure for them. So it's the same technology, it's just bringing it to the downtown area where you have underground utilities and you don't already have existing wood utility poles.
So, can I? Yes, okay, so
This antenna will be in the future can be used like a 5G network,
Yes.
you know. When I do some research, 5G, those kind of things has some concern about the public health issue. Did you wear that? Probably you wear. You probably heard that because when I do some research, the 5G are different. The 4G, there was some public health issues. So my concern is that when you upgrade to 4G to 5G, any antenna in this area, they need any special permission separate from the city hall, or just you can do whatever you want? How?
So upgrading the antenna at an existing site, I believe would just be an administrative review by the city. If we were looking to put in additional sites for 5G, then those would have to come back before the council for additional locations. We'll say that both 4G and 5G, all wireless infrastructure has to fall within certain RF emissions parameters set by the FCC. And the FCC has set what they deem to be a safe level of RF emissions, and Verizon meets all of those.
So then, Council President, can you
Ask then our Health and Human Services Department provide some to research and study regarding how 5G is going to impact the public health in Jersey City. I think they should do some study research that require. Number two.
So that's actually prohibited by the Telecommunications Act. Municipalities are not permitted to make approval or denial decisions based on radio frequency health because the FCC has set the maximum exposure limits, and as long as the carrier falls within those limits, is presumed to be safe. We can certainly provide you with documentation from Verizon Wireless on each of the nodes discussing the emissions level and demonstrating the safety of each. That's something we can certainly provide to the city.
Okay, so then the next question is that
we're going to be only charge $750 for installation for new systems or so and so. Do you have your company any plan to provide a free hotspot for in Jersey City?
Right now, the only thing that we're addressing is just the infrastructure in the right-of-way. It's the real estate division of Verizon.
The digital kiosks that we're installing, those will have free Wi-Fi.
Yeah, but there's a very
Limited area.
Well, so these would be limited. Hotspots are just limited anyway, wherever you put them. But yeah, true.
at least
If your company able to provide, free hotspot in the public park, my personal opinion is that you pay $750.
Asked about this every which way could be asked, and well, I'll defer to the law department and on that question of how much we can charge and how much that somehow we're limited in this ability to.
We've talked about this hotspot thing, especially in parks and public spaces, and the kiosks probably are the most cost-effective way to do it because the kiosks are free essentially, and it's just a matter of getting those things installed in some of the parks too. So it's on the radar, but yeah, if we were going to pay for it by itself, it's expensive to run power and internet to those spots. Yeah.
So if we say no, this
The city council for those 3, then what happened then?
Well,
No, we'd probably be hauled in front of the FCC and take it from there.
I'm not going to be.
It would be us, yeah, we'd be.
Long story short, we'd lose.
Council President Ray?
Aren't there hotspots in the county parks?
I don't know,
There are.
actually. There are?
They don't always work well, but they're.
Yeah,
They're
okay,
not
okay.
with us, but they've had them for years.
Okay, I think Hamilton Park is a hotspot, or it did at one time, and it was installed privately by a developer. So there's technology out there, there's options, it's just, yeah.
$750 if your company provide a hotspot, free hotspot, at least the municipal park, the park, I think is a very good gesture to the community. Or if we can charge any amount, maybe instead of charge $750, if we're not regulated by the state or federal, we should be charged $7,500.
It's regulated by both the state and federal.
Yeah. So, Councilman, if we were to put a kiosk on the outside of Riverview Park, it would actually cover that entire park as a hotspot. Yeah, so, and we do, it's on the map, so, or at some point, so we're getting there.
I'm going to ask you accountability for the issue. Be careful. All right.
Robert.
No time frame.
Okay.
Councilman Solomon?
So I last discussed this project, I think, in January, February. You know, what's changed since I had a conversation about it with Verizon?
If it was a conversation with Verizon, nothing has changed. We've been continuously trying to refine the right-of-way agreement with the law department, and we finalized that agreement now.
So all the locations are the same, the design's the same, all that's the same? Okay. And correct me if I'm wrong, the design allows for two kind of node, like two, I don't know where the is here. So basically, you put up this and Verizon puts its thing in, and then another company could put theirs in as well?
On a wood pole, you could do that. With the streetlight structures, there's no technical reason, radio frequency-wise, why you couldn't do that. There are some physical limitations to the structure, so we would probably have to modify the structure. So if we came in and put in a structure for Verizon Wireless and say AT&T wanted to come in, we'd have to take that out and put in a new one, but that certainly could be done.
Okay, and just to cover for the law department, you know, what prevents sort of a proliferation of these devices? So, you know, Verizon comes in and says, this is our list. AT&T comes in the next week, then T-Mobile, and then all of a sudden the streets have, you know, this sort of gross landscape of 10 of these.
Well, part of it is just going to be the market at the moment. They're not going to pay the money to install them where they don't need them. So these are dealing with basically coverage gaps. AT&T doesn't have the same, from what I understand, quite the same coverage issues that Verizon has. They already have the infrastructure in there for Jersey City. I can certainly say, subjectively speaking, when my wife was using AT&T and I was using Verizon, I could not get coverage in my apartment, but she had no problems whatsoever.
You know, you look at the gentleman on.
I use AT&T. My wife is a Verizon. And she has no problem, but I got problem. So in other words, that the way Councilman James Solomon brought up the issue is we're gonna face the same problem. And the another one, we're gonna charge $750 per new installation. Next to 20 years, today's money about $750 is some worse, but 15 years later, today's $750, maybe $75. Why we have to give to 20 years? You know, why we not give to only 5 years? So 5 years, when we do that country, we say, listen, now $950 for new installation. You know, 10 years later, maybe we should say $1,000 for new installation. You print that just $750 for new installation next to 20 years? Come on, what's the matter with you?
The 20 years is just for the equipment that they're proposing to install per this actual agreement to stay within the public right-of-way.
No, but I mean, so we give the
20 years a lease. So in other words, it's 10 years later when you put your new installation based on the average height of building in Jersey City, maybe 50 story, 20 story, but in the 20 years later, maybe 100 story, then they have to be new installation started all over the place. Then we are going to charge the same amount, $750, or if I'm you, you're not the businessman, as a businessman, I'm not going to give 20 years for doing this with $750. I say better be say 5 years, if not regulated by state or federal, we should not give them more than 5 years.
The $750 is our administration fee. That's going to change based off of the salaries of whoever is working for the city that needs to. Well, it will in the sense that if they come with a whole nother set of poles that they want to install throughout Jersey City, they're going to need a new agreement for that with the new proposed locations, and if the administrative fee needs to be adjusted for it at that time, that can be done.
So, if I'm going to think of both, installation fee and administration fee. Administration fee is going to be fee adjusted based on time, but also we want to charge the installation fee for the new one also adjusted. So while we have to, any reason we have to give 20 years, while we cannot 10 years, well, while we cannot give 5 years. The city council only take 2 minutes to prove that, you know.
So this agreement is just for the specific locations attached to this agreement. So if we have additional installations after these 54, then we would come back before the city council for another agreement, and the fees could be adjusted at that time. The federal government regulates the fees that can be charged by a municipality to a reasonable approximation of your actual fees. So if your actual fees 3 years from now exceed $750 per pole.
I agree with that. But if not regular by state or federal, then why we give the 20 years? Why we not 5 years, 10 years?
So Verizon's making a significant investment in this infrastructure. The cost of deploying this infrastructure will be several $1 million, and in order for them to have a return on their investment, they need to have at least 25 years.
Try to help your own business with Verizon. If Verizon is a bad connection, people go someplace else. So all those installations, not for benefit of people of Jersey City and the taxpayer I'm talking about, it's a benefit to your company to bring up the more people subscribe to Verizon. So now my question is that our law department, while we have to give the 20 years, if not by state to a state and not regulated term, why don't we give the 10 years? Why we cannot 5 years? So I'm supporting that program.
So he's asked a question to the law department.
Yeah.
An answer, or if you need time, let them know that you need to respond back.
It's not a legal question. It's a judgment call. I mean, is there a difference between you have the agreement for 5 years or 20 years?
Yes, big difference.
Well, I would respectfully disagree that there's no benefit to the citizens of Jersey City. If you are in an area with limited service and you try to place a 911 call, there's a possibility that it wouldn't go through. It's difficult to navigate using a GPS. The last time I was in Jersey City 3 weeks ago, I tried to get an Uber, and he was half a mile away when it said that it was meeting me. So the ability to make phone calls, particularly 911 calls, the ability to use GPS, and the ability to use data-intensive applications, I think is a benefit to everybody who lives and works in Jersey City. Having connectivity on your cell phone is no longer a luxury. More than 50% of people don't have home phones anymore.
You say what? If you install all this installation over the 20 years, I understand. But you guys gonna be installed all those locations maybe in 2 years, 1 year, you know what I'm saying? So if we just drop down, why we have to get 20 years?
Verizon Wireless needs to know that they'll be able to keep their infrastructure there for at least 20 years. This is going to cost millions and millions of dollars for them to replace this infrastructure. And if there's a 5-year agreement that requires them to possibly remove the structures within 5 years, it's really difficult for them to make that investment in Jersey City.
And if I may add for the record, Councilman, originally the plan was for a 40-year term. We negotiated this now. Yes.
Great job. Next time, make it 10 years. Make it even better.
Well.
Okay. What's the state of outreach to the neighborhoods that are getting these?
So the agreement is written that the council approval is basically giving SQF and Verizon the right to occupy the public right-of-way, and each installation is subject to approval by engineering and planning.
Okay, but we haven't reached out to our neighborhoods and let them know this is coming yet?
Yeah, we haven't, but we can,
Okay.
when we get the plan. We'll reach out to the council members that are affected by them as well, for sure.
Only one is here, E. You ain't got to reach out to all of them. He's the only one.
Well, there may, yeah, down the road, too. Okay, fair. We'll email you when they start.
Okay, I think,
That's true, but
I certainly think in the next 2 weeks, you know, I certainly want to reach out to
Right,
I
the
mean, Pat
community.
and Paul Sucker, the two main ones.
Yes.
um,
Community, yeah.
And just make sure, you know, make sure people have an understanding of what's happening and all that other stuff before things start popping up. on the
If you want us
streets.
to come with you to a community meeting.
Potentially, let me review the locations and the designs and everything. It's been like,
Yeah.
a lot's happened since I last focused on this, so,
Sure.
I don't,
So the question that will invariably come up when you come to a community group for that is
yeah.
something like, why are we obligated to give you access to the public right of way and to maybe somehow, for lack of a better word, litter the streets with more objects and things of that nature, right? So that's invariably going to be the question, and then the answer that I've always gotten back is something about kind of legally we're required to, and that we don't really have a choice in the matter. So like if you can articulate that and just put that into a more more clarity on that stuff on the legal basis of that, then you can bring that to every community meeting and share that with everyone in the process.
To assuage some of the concerns about that, it's not that we don't have any control over it whatsoever. It's within reasonable limits. We can apply reasonable zoning restrictions to this, so you don't have 20 utility poles down, you know, one block of a road. That's not an issue. That can be prevented, but we can't ban it completely either.
Last time we came, you had a design, like, with the water gets, but we didn't have something. Something didn't go through
I
here.
don't remember what happened.
Right, but they did show us a picture how it was gonna be, you know, installed.
So it's going to vary depending on the neighborhood. The lights are fully customizable, so whatever is currently there that we're looking to remove and replace will make the new one look as close to that as possible. If it's steel, we'll make it steel. If it's a black powder coated, we'll do that. We can do the fluting around the base, and the light fixtures will be the same. So whatever light fixtures are currently on the lights will go on the new ones. So it's, you know, something that we can talk about in the planning process.
To confirm, it's essentially would look like another street light. It's not a separate looking pole, right?
It will look like a street, it will be a street light. It will have lights on it. It will have a larger diameter base to house the Verizon wireless equipment and an antenna over the lights.
So is this administrative?
Yes.
So we charge $750, or that you as a business can be charged administrative expensive to them. Then what is a reasonable administrative expensive for this kind of thing?
The number 750 is what we think to be reasonable. They're doing all the work as far as installation. We're just reviewing and inspecting. So, you know, for us to charge $7,500 is probably not fair. We wish it was. We wish it was, but.
We can change that if you pay us more.
No, please don't go there.
Okay. So just for the record, and so I could put it on the record, I also inquired about the idea that what if the city itself were to install its own poles and then rent out, if you want to affix your whatever technology onto it, and was told that that's not feasible or possible to do that as well. So I can't recall what the legal argument was around that, but that was also told me as well.
There's two competing sets of laws here in terms of what we're able to charge and what we're not able to charge. The first thing comes from state law, which we are only allowed to tax what the state says we're allowed to tax. So everything else has to be an administrative fee, which is directly related to the services provided. In this particular case, we calculated that in consultation and negotiation with Verizon, that $750 for an administrative fee for this is appropriate, given the engineering review, the cost of going out and looking at the sites, as well as the legal review of all the issues surrounding the installation of each pole. So we can't, it's really not a lease. Now, there are some people in this country, and some legal scholars have argued that what Washington has done under the Federal Telecommunications Act is really requiring municipalities to allow pretty much unfettered access for telecommunications companies to the rights of way should not have been permitted. But the Federal Act requires it. What the Federal Act does allow is administrative fees. What we can't do is say, hey, we're not going to give you access unless you give us X amount of dollars or X amount of hotspots. That's prohibited by federal law. So you have the two issues. One, you don't have the power to have a special tax on these poles because the state doesn't allow it. It's not giving us that authority. And two, the federal law says you have to allow telecommunications access in order to put up these poles so the citizens of the municipality and other municipalities have access to that technology. It kind of goes back to putting up telephone poles. I mean, people had to have access to telephone poles, but you wouldn't want municipalities saying, we're not allowing any telephone poles in our community, would prevent access for phone lines for the members of the community. So there are good reasons why that shouldn't be the law, and I think, Councilman, I think your frustration is, hey, we're giving up something that belongs to the municipality, and we'd like to charge more for it. The bottom line is we can't.
Yeah, it's tied to our hourly wages, unfortunately.
That's what I'm saying. Everything's a part by control.
By state and the federal, but Tom was not, right? If it's a Tom is not regulated by state and the federal, then we have no reason to keep it to 20 years. Maybe keep it to 10 years.
Well, that's a matter of negotiation for Verizon.
That's what I'm saying.
Verizon said unless they get 20 years, it's not worth their while to enter this agreement. So we come down from 40 to 20. It's a matter of negotiation. But the $750 as things stand right now, for the rates for what the law department in a reasonable market may charge, probably less than a reasonable market because our rates as a municipality are considered less than certainly somebody in a private firm. That's how the $750 number was calculated.
I can add something here as well. So long as these utility poles still provide functionality for their network, they're going to continue using them. So the 20 years will make sense. If it turned out in 10 years they didn't have any need for these things anymore, and they essentially become abandoned, there's already a clause in the agreement where we can force them to remove it. We can force the removal of the utility poles if they're not being used anymore. They're not going to have.
It's obsolete. It will be removed from the public right.
Right, and removed, okay.
Correct.
But Verizon company
Understand the legal document review by City of New Jersey Law Department. We have a top class of lawyer in City of New Jersey City, so their job is not that cheap than like other town. I just want to make sure. So 750. When I see that they charge it 750 per hour, so that's why I ask them more.
Council, I'll keep track of that, and somebody outside council knows what's coming in.
Well,
let's go, it's right.
All right?
Thank you.
Thanks. Yeah, no problem.
free house spot.
Next, we got Ed, Carmen, and then Kate House. Ed Tolosa, he has 10S. And then you also have a late item, 10? For Ed. Okay, 10S is a resolution authorizing the award of a competitively bid contract to McNerney and Associates to provide appraisal services in connection with property tax appeal cases filed before the tax court of New Jersey for calendar year 2018. Anything you want to say about that, Ed?
Yeah, well, normally every year.
He has R too.
No, okay. Okay, let's start with S, because I just announced that, so let's go.
Every year, we hire an expert. That would aid us in the disposal of the tax court cases. In addition to the, say, if there is a need for a formal or full appraisal report, they provide that. Otherwise, majority of the time, we just consult with them. With the 2018 reval we had, I think from the information we got from our attorneys, there is a spike in terms of the number of cases filed before the tax court. So last year, basically, we sent out this RFP. Unfortunately, we only received one response. Nevertheless, we went through the normal routine on doing evaluations, and this basically, or you may say we have no other choice except this one, but nevertheless, they are fully qualified as an expert in the appraisal.
Questions, council?
Well, sir, I apologize, this is the term. how long does this contract cover?
Basically, we were working through the fiscal year, although when we got this kind of not exactly written approval, our attorneys were sending some kind of consultation with the expert, so probably you might have some few bills that that they incurred a few months ago. So it is not that much. Probably the $35,000 that we're looking here might not be spent for this fiscal year.
So this would be for the fiscal year, so
18.
So July 1st, 2018 to June 30th, 2019.
No, December, end of December.
December.
Yeah, we only have a few months. Probably, as I said, we may not exhaust that $35,000 that we allotted.
This would cover till the end of the calendar year.
That's correct. Yes.
Okay.
And then we will send probably another RFP comes November or December. Now you may wonder why it's only through this late period, because remember the appraisal company has under their contract they have to defend some of those appeals also. That's why majority of the appeals also were handled by them.
And then you have 10R, which is a resolution authorizing the settle assessment appeals filed before the Tax Court of New Jersey on various properties.
Yeah, these basically appeals filed before the tax court. Basically a warehouse located on the Broadway that has 363 square feet. And they filed an appeal from 2014 to 16. And basically, initially we came up with a value, and then on the average, you're looking at, I think we began with 25 million, there's at 19, and on the average for those 3 years, we came up with 22 million in market value.
Council members, this is in Ward C or B?
Basically the warehouse all the way down towards, by the Pulaski area near the Hackensack River.
Wilson's Carpet, you mean?
Past that. Yes.
Questions on this? None.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ed. Carmen, you're on. Carmen has 10N, 10M, and Z5. NMZ5.
Letter of order. All right, 10M.
Is a resolution to amend resolutions of the council that authorize allocations of unexpended housing opportunities for persons with age, HOPWA funds.
Great.
You have questions? One question.
Need explanation?
The, 106,000 is accomplished in, all of the prices above that, right? So the 88, the 1,000, the $6 over. I did this late last night, so I'm just making sure.
So what it is, it's unexpended balances or expiring balances in our financial system, which is IDIS. And so I think in the attachment that I sent, I want to say in 2015, we went from last in, first out to first in, first out from LIFO to FIFO. And so HUD issued us a letter, which was in this packet, just giving us some guidance in regards to what we needed to do to cancel out prior balances. And so that's kind of sort of what brought us here today. So they kind of sort of said, like, here, you have expiring funds, you had a resolution, you had a contract, so you didn't clean up those balances. You now either have to carry it forward in order to continue to keep this agreement because they understand that, it was a whole migration shift. And so what we did is, in order not to lose it, is that we just reallocated and programmed it forward to an existing agency who we were going to fund this year. So it's really a budgetary item so that I wouldn't lose the expiring funds of balances that should have been cleaned up like years ago, but I wasn't here. I wasn't here.
I wanted to make sure I was adding up the right amounts.
You had 107?
I started at, where we have the clauses that says, whereas at the end of year 2009, and then went down, so 1, 2, 3, 4, those 5 lines under there. So I just want to make sure I'm adding the right thing.
I will double check this, but this was back and forth with HUD and what they approved and what they sent to us. But I'll just make sure that there isn't a typo in this. You got 107. Okay. Any other questions on?
This is kind of reprogramming these budgetary funds, but kind of next year, this, correct, or this 100,000 won't exist because this will be from cleaning up the old funds. Is that kind of correct assumption?
So, no. So we're reallocating expiring funds.
Right.
So the 106 is going to be allocated to Cornerstone, who's an existing agency in this fiscal year. The remaining of those funds will be allocated into my, let's just say, fiscal 19 budget for HOPWA. So I will be able to use those funds in a future use. I just haven't allocated those funds to anything yet because we're going into this program year.
Okay.
So, and then it's going to be dedicated to the HOPWA modernization, which was the guidance that I provided in the packet in regards to the direction that we're already going with the HOPWA grant, because in 2012 Congress enacted the changes to the grant, and so right now we're just going through a whole evaluation process of our existing grant, and I also attached the HUD TA contract that we have that HUD is kind of sort of helping us with in identifying that contract. That's 10N.
Okay, 10N, it's a resolution of the Municipal Council of the City of Jersey City authorizing acceptance and execution of HUD entitlement grants for CDBG, ESG, HOPWA, and HOME, and authorizing program contracts under the HUD entitlement programs for program years April 1, 2018 through March 31st, 2019. This is the final authorization of the contracts. Just you're missing the PO numbers. Is that relevant or not relevant?
They'll be relevant before the meeting starts. If we don't have them, they won't go be presented for final adoption. We'll get Millie. Millie's usually in touch with us on that.
Okay. Any questions? None? Thank you. Then we got 10Z5, which is a resolution of the Municipal Council of the City of Jersey City, authoring program contracts for summer youth programs. Under this Community Development Block Grant, Public Services, CDBG, for program year April 1, 2017 through March 31st, 2018. Anything else? Any questions, council? Are there any, this is the final allocation to them? Is
Yeah,
that-
this is summer, right? So
For
this
summer.
budget is from last year, from fiscal 18, that we set aside to administer this summer. And so you have the applicants that applied and my memo in regards to identifying what it's intended to use. So these were activities that were carried out this summer. And these are where we're recommending an award to. Team Wilderness is a summer program in regards to excursion. It's run by Steve Cunningham. Yeah, Cunningham, Steve, teacher. So, yeah, so.
It's a week or 2 weeks. I don't know.
Yeah, it's over the summer.
Do stuff out in nature and hiking and things like that in nature.
So I will say that this is our second year funding that project. Last year was a pilot. They did well. They reapplied again this summer, and so we granted them.
Okay.
Yeah. All right, thank you.
And Allison, sorry to keep you waiting.
No.
Thank you, guys. Is Kate with you too, or just yourself?
Just myself, yes. Kate had to head out. So.
Allison's here for 10I, everyone. And this is a resolution urging the U.S. Congress to enact a revenue-neutral carbon fee. And Allison Kuko is the chair of the Environmental Commission.
Yes. Great. Okay. So I'm just reading. There are some handouts that everyone should be getting. Okay, great. So the resolution is the resolution urging the U.S. Congress to enact a revenue-neutral carbon fee. So with this resolution, I'll explain kind of what the policy is, but this resolution, if passed by City Council, would then distribute copies of this to our representatives and our senators. Bless you. So I have a lot of information in there because I'm an educator, so I wanted to give you a lot of background as to why this is actually important. So we all know that global climate change is happening and it's very real. And so greenhouse gases, just very basics, greenhouse gases like carbon dioxide, which this resolution aims to reduce, trap heat, energy in the form of heat in our atmosphere, thereby warming our atmosphere. And so just to give you a little bit, and I'm not sure exactly where you are, but you can turn to like the graph showing that CO2 measurements, either in Mauna Loa or just put forth by NASA. And so for centuries, atmospheric carbon dioxide levels have fluctuated, but as you can see where we are right now, we're at the current level of carbon dioxide emissions that is beyond anything that's ever been measured. And so what we need to do is enact some sort of a change. I think this is a timely resolution. The IPCC, the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, actually issued a report for policymakers last Monday, or 2 Mondays ago, but just highlighting the need to do something. So what exactly are we saying should be done is a carbon fee and dividend. So very basically what this is you place a fee on fossil fuels at the source, so mine, well, or port. You start at $15 per ton of carbon dioxide emissions and increase by $10 a ton annually. And so that's where the kind of tax the fee, but then the dividend, so the money that is taken in by that is actually distributed to the population, so distributed to households and equally. So I can go through like maybe the effect on emissions, the effect on the economy, the effect on health, and the effect on incomes. So first, the effect on emissions. So under a carbon fee and dividend, it's expected that carbon dioxide levels will decrease by 31% within 10 years below levels that were recorded in 1990. And within 20 years, there's a reduction of 20%. I'm sorry, yes. So within 20 years, 50%. Yes, within 20 years, 50%. Thank you. So then the next is just, the next slide is showing that if we have just like a normal baseline where our energy is coming from, and if there's a reduction or there's a fee that's imposed on carbon dioxide, then we're still getting energy just from other sources. Okay, so we're increasing wind, solar, even a little bit of nuclear, but we're still getting our energy. This will also create jobs. So it's expected that there will be, within 10 years, 2.1 million new jobs created, and within 20 years, 2.8 million jobs. What effect will this have on GDP? So under this structure, there will be an average increase of $70 to $85 billion per year. The next few slides are just showing that varies depending on where you are, and also depending what industry you're in. So where obviously manufacturing, mining, there will be a decrease, but other industries like healthcare, finance, insurance, there'll be an increase. Okay, and also the effect, as you can see, varies depending on where exactly you are in the United States. Okay, oop, and I think I have a double. And then lives saved. So as a result of decreasing our carbon dioxide emissions and just basically like that source being utilized, we'll be able to, over 20 years, 227,000 lives will be saved. That's what they say. And that's because of a reduction in by and large, air pollution. Okay. So another thing that I didn't really touch upon, but there's obviously a cost that will be associated with carbon dioxide, and just that the effects of global climate change. So as we increase the climate, we're also increasing the waters. We are increasing the strength of hurricanes, for instance. And so when we have a really strong hurricane that might affect somewhere like Florida, that cost is still, it's not actually being addressed, or it's not being taken, like it's not being paid for by those that are emitting the carbon dioxide or the greenhouse gas emissions that are actually contributing to this problem. So just like there is a huge cost, if we continue to not do anything. There's still a huge cost anyway, because we already have done quite a lot. Okay. So where is this money going to go? So it'll go into households. So it'll be directly going into households for a family of 4, and I have some folks with the climate lobby with me here right now, so I believe I'm correct in this, that it will, it's divided for adults, and anything that is under the age of 18, they kind of serve as 1/2, right? Yeah, okay. And so what does that look like? About $288 a month for 10 years, and then increasing to like nearly $400 a month for about 20 years. I'm sorry, yeah, at 20 years. So then this, basically, because this is going to increase the cost of, say, gasoline at the pump, we didn't want, or the goal is to have a policy that doesn't then affect low-income individuals that will actually be very adversely affected to increase gas prices or something like that. So if we distribute the funds equally, then that's a way to get around that, to kind of account for that. Okay, so that's my backstory.
I have 2 questions.
Sure.
This was unanimously recommended by the Environmental Commission?
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Yes, I mentioned that. Yep.
And who are your guests?
Our guests are folks from the Citizens Climate Lobby. So we have Nikki and Ruth and Justin. Okay.
Great. Other questions, council members? Anyone? No?
Cool. Thank you, guys. Thank you very much.
Very
Thank you.
informative. Thank you. All right. We'll be taking this up on Wednesday. Okay. City council meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you. Steve, I think you're last and certainly not the least. Never the least.
So early.
10X, 10Z.
Don't jinx it. Don't jinx it. Copiers might be the issue.
Which resolution are we at?
XZZ1. X is a resolution authorizing the award of a contract to Winter Ford for the purchase and delivery of Ford Interceptor utility vehicles under state contract for the Department of Public Safety, Division of Police, carbon vehicles, use vehicles. Okay, let's go.
Steve, can't you answer me that last time we purchased a police patrol car, instead of purchase, we leased, because you guys have called this council, lease is cheaper, and they have some warranty, and 3 years later, we can give back, so we continue renew. But now, you guys are purchasing now. So tell me, why this time you purchase it right, last time purchase no good, lease is better, and this time purchase better than lease. Can you explain to both parties? Good luck. Good luck! I'm ready.
First of all, police cars cannot be bought, are bought out of operating expenses because they can't be capitalized because they don't last for 5 years, and that's the requirement of the bond law.
I think we used operating money for lease
Yeah.
Yeah.
So can you explain to why that, so what is it?
I cannot. The police are the ones that recommended the purchase of the 8 new vehicles for additional police. And I can go back and ask why they changed from leasing to purchasing. Because we're just doing the pass-through from the police recommendation through the automotive budget. Last time it was leasing.
And unfortunately, the people from public safety who were supposed to be here are doing an event with Gold Star families tonight, last minute, and so they're not here. But I will try to get that information before the council meeting on Wednesday. Yeah, I remember. Yeah, and I don't remember what it was. Yeah.
Better than lease.
What is an interceptor vehicle?
It's a Ford Explorer that has some different upgrades based on police service.
Is it intended to be used as a patrol car?
Yes, marked patrol cars. So we have, I think we have 20 or 25 of them on the street now, somewhere in that range. They're gonna match that. Yeah, they're the Ford Explorer police cars, the SUVs that are out there.
And they have bigger brake drums and
So you're gonna give us an
bigger
answer
engines and
before Wednesday, right?
Yes, absolutely before that. Yeah, they have different cooling devices just because they're doing a lot more idling. There's some other parts that are changed out in there. Right, heavier duty suspension, yeah.
And then, Ryan, as the year of energy or electricity or whatever we're in,
Yeah.
how does this factor into the electrifying our fleets?
These are not electric vehicles. The first step for electric vehicles are going to be more general purpose vehicles. We're hopefully going to have some of these electric vehicle charging stations installed over the next couple of months. Then we're going to buy some general use vehicles just to see how they interact with our fleet and how we can manage and maintain them. We don't want to start with a police car right away just because it's sort of a specialized need. But yeah, down the road, it's something that we're definitely going to consider. Yeah.
When you purchase by electric car, purchase electric car for the council members first, so they can tell you how bad it was, how good it
Here's
is.
what we're planning to do. So you've probably seen a lot of city vehicles at City Hall that probably don't get used every day. We're planning to scale back on the vehicles that are here and start a car sharing program for anyone at City Hall. And then when we get electric vehicles and charging stations, cycle in some electric vehicles too. So anyone will be able to use them and test it out and let us know what they think. Yeah, we're getting there. It's slow. Everything's slow around here, but you know.
To the police officers, or are they going to the people up here?
They're for patrol. They're for patrol. Yeah. Yes.
So
they're for patrol. I'll leave it at that.
Last question. I called your office 3 times to leave the message and the message. I never get called you back.
I apologize. Yeah, I know. I saw.
Now you only know.
Yeah,
The second person is I called at the HEDC a couple of times. I never get called. I called the director of CD a couple of times. I never get back call. So now, they have any special reason to they not response? Or what was it? They have any internal policy? The director not going to speak with the council members?
No. I
Just want to make sure.
There were a
because-
lot of people I've been backed up, and I'm sorry. I called Rolando back a few minutes ago from something from a few days ago. That's on me. I apologize. Been busy. Yeah.
It's not internal. Any policy?
No, absolutely not.
You should.
All the directors spent Friday in this room from 9 a.m. to 5:15 p.m. None of us did any work.
And we had a directors meeting, which we started up. We're doing monthly directors meetings on, what was it, Monday was the last one? And I specifically said in that meeting, as directors, we need to make sure that we are responding to communications in a timely manner between us as directors, but also the public and council members and everybody. So it was, and then I didn't. Yeah, you're right. So demerits for Brian, yeah.
And good job, but we're gonna make sure what you say, what you do is different, we're gonna nail down to the
All right, let's keep going.
Yep.
What do you got, 10Z?
They did Y with Carlucci, so we have Z and Z1.
Month-to-month extension, not to exceed 6 months, of a contract with Canon Solutions America for the leasing, maintenance, of 10 color copier machines effective October 1st, 2018, for various locations citywide for the Department of Public Works.
There's a, maybe we should talk about all the copier ones together, yeah.
Same thing for Rico.
Z1 is the also same.
10C1 is the other company, is Rico.
Color.
So, business administrator?
Yes.
Maybe good idea, maybe bad idea, but I find that when I speak with other different cities and towns purchasing agency, there were some very interesting. If a city purchased a state contract or regional contract, sometimes their cost is more than city go out the bid.
Yep.
So the good part is that purchase department or any department, the purchase agency in any department have a less work. So we should have an internal policy under your leadership. Any person, before use at the state, regional contract, they should get some at least 2-3 quotation from the outside of that network.
Yeah.
They should have that.
So actually, we're extending these because we're going to do an RFP for copiers, and exactly, this is exactly the reason. So we typically go to a state contract and just renew these contracts, and the number is what it is, but we are hopeful that we can get a better deal and a better price if we do our own RFP. Copiers are one of the few things that you don't have to do an RFP for, but we're going to give it a shot. We may get a better number, we may not, but at least we'll know. At least we'll cast a wider net.
It's $1 million, $900,000. If we able to save $100,000, if we see the way we spread the CDBG fund, 10,000 there, $100,000 can help a lot of different organizations provide service in Jersey City. So I like to, as a Brian Platt, as a business, put you some effort, save some dollars, so we can help the more different non-profit organization community in Jersey City can provide service. Okay.
Sure, absolutely.
Please. Okay.
This is one of the items where prices actually have come down, because remember, this is a 5-year contract and a 4-year contract that ended. So we're hoping that the $1 million would be a little bit less just based on their per copy charges being lower now than it was years ago. We'll see. We'll try bidding first.
Machine itself.
It's maintenance and
Maintenance and supply.
yeah. It doesn't include paper and toner.
Toners include, right?
Paper's not
Yeah, paper is not included, but as I understand, they include the price of $900,000 include maintenance and the toner supply.
Yeah,
Okay?
yes. And the leasing cost for the copiers. Yes. Okay. All right. Okay, I have 10Z10. 10Z10 is also a very simple one.
Used furniture to the Housing Authority.
Good job. Donate furniture.
Excuse me.
There's no money involved. Yeah. I know, nominal.
Nominal consideration.
The dollar part, so.
You just took care of 10Z10.
Brian, I don't know if you're putting that on. I have it. Yeah, I have it. It's a truck for automotive. I don't know if you wanted to put this on or not.
We do.
Okay.
Is that the original?
No, this is a copy.
He finishes review on this.
Why don't you let it wait till next meeting?
Is this for Winter Ford?
Yeah, it is.
Look at it?
Yeah.
Is we just hold it till next meeting?
Yeah, this is the truck.
Supposed to make, I'm not making anyone's case. It was signed for and it's supposed to be on the last meeting.
Prior, not this one, prior.
Not this meeting, the meeting of October 10th.
Let's wait till we get the electronic. Council members, just so you know, there's a reviewing going on currently for a digital electronic
We'll
agenda system.
Okay, sure. We will.
So, folks,
It won't make the, I'll follow up on that.
Okay.
Actually, yeah.
So just, we're going to have looking at digital. Brian and his office has been leading the charge on this as well, a digital electronic system, and if that happens, then I think a lot of these kind of,
Yeah.
why is it in the agenda kind of thing? It was supposed to be there. A lot of that will be solved. It'll be very transparent and moving it through the process.
We're still working on that. Not sure what we're gonna do. Yeah.
The beginning time.
Unsure if it's gonna be a tablet or a laptop or what it's gonna be, but there'll be some device that you will have access to, either on the dais in here or both. Take home. We're not sure yet. Working on it. Yeah.
Exciting stuff.
To make sure that tablet is big enough to can see.
Sure.
Number one.
Sure.
Number two, no, later on number two.
We're not there yet. But I will say something very exciting, which I think the Ward A and B Council people are most excited about, is the idea that electronic voting, so that you say what you have to say and you go around the horn, and then after that you just kind of say, council members, cast your vote, and everybody, boop.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's what they do in the Senate.
What's that?
Yeah. All in the digital system. Yeah.
To go backwards for the next year, so.
I mean, really.
All right. The only first reading ordinance remaining is a second attempt.
Council President, before we go, I got a couple of things I have to ask you, Brian.
Well, are they on the agenda?
It was agenda?
No, we don't know where it's agenda.
Are they on the agenda?
We can talk about it
No, these are after.
It's agenda.
After the meeting.
3A is an ordinance amending and supplementing the Pornography and Obscenity Code, Chapter 251, repealing the current version in its entirety and adopting a new version.
Entirety or entirely?
Entirety.
Entirety?
Yeah. Do you guys have?
We'll fix that.
I think we also need to add city, right, after the municipal council of the city of Jersey City.
Yes. In the title, or below the title.
Is it in mistake in the ordinance?
The first line under the title. Municipal Council of the City of Jersey does ordain.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Okay.
So I can just briefly summarize. I sent it via email, so hopefully everybody got it. But it's, when we considered this in May, it's largely the same, particularly the free speech protections that mirror the Supreme Court decision and the removal of the clause that related to people's private sex lives. What is different is the definition of nudity reverts back to including the female breast as part of being nude in the public. Obviously, that was not my goal, but just from talking to council, felt like we were, as a body, more comfortable with that. And then it creates a specific definition of that based off of both Trenton and Union City, which had those. I'm happy to answer any questions you all have either here or, one-on-one.
Councilman, also there's the exception for.
Yes, exemption for breastfeeding, thank you, yes.
And there's a, the 251-4 exception of the female is not considered to be in state and the process of breastfeeding, but the people say the council make sure that process of breastfeeding for the baby only. That's what they ask. Yeah, that's what they ask you. The people say it's a breastfeeding
Make sure they say for the
only
breast-
for breastfeeding for the
The
baby.
baby only.
You have to define baby.
So come up maybe
Yeah,
on the
so up to how
4
many,
years,
because some
5
people
years.
do breastfeed longer than others, right? Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. So
What light cheat club?
7
Okay.
maximum.
Is that a serious request? Is that,
Can we do that?
Yeah.
Let's discuss more. I mean, I think if we start putting an age limit on it, we're getting ourselves into more trouble than I think. Right. That'd be my recommendation.
No, because
So-
the reason I put in this one to
Right.
our meetings. in the
Yes.
executive
No, I
meeting,
understand.
They say the councilman is great, but they make sure that only for breastfeeding for the baby.
I just think if we start.
I just
enforcing
asked
for
you.
like a 4. I understand. Yeah, it's just that as a request. But I think if we start saying like, ask someone, an officer on the street, is your baby 3 or 4? I think we're going to get into more trouble than it's worth. And I think we all acknowledge breastfeeding is something
It's a certain
that we need to
age.
do
That's it.
to have new
Accent is
children
too
in
much.
our society. So.
Yeah.
Okay.
Breastfeeding.
Okay.
Any questions on the second readings? That should be easy, with C coming out, and 2 traffic ordinances.
Folks. Okay.
All right, let's just go to the resolutions we haven't touched yet.
Why don't they pull the resolution on horses until?
They did.
It's being pulled.
It's being pulled.
10A, yeah, let's talk about them as we get there. 10A is a resolution accepting grants and putting them into our budget, chapter 159. B through G are all resolutions commending various worthy individuals. Corporal Richard Hamilton for his service, Fred Jackson for his service to the United States of America, posthumously commending Rafael Nieves Jr. for his service to the United States of America, Leon Tucker for his service to the United States of America, F, recognizing prayers for peace as a day of reflection and prayer for those who suffered during the Korean War. G is recognizing Edward J. Baez for his dedication to Jersey City and the LGBTQ community. H, commemorating the dedication of Berry Lane Park. We did I. J is a resolution to amend a resolution to correct the amount of the city's mortgage and authorize the BA to execute a discharge of mortgage for property at 88 Dwight Street. K is a resolution to amend a resolution authorizing the business administrator to execute a discharge of mortgage at 22 Roosevelt Avenue. L is a resolution of the city of Jersey City to apply for funds from the New Jersey Department of Law and Public Safety, Division of Highway Traffic Safety, Drunk Driving Enforcement. M, we did. N and O were done. P is an agreement with the Uniform Shared Services Consolidation Act, permitting the redevelopment agency to fuel its motor vehicles at our public works facility. We did Q, R, and S. T is authorizing the award of contract to Atlantic Ambulance Corporation for emergency medical technician training for the Department of Public Safety, Division of Fire.
I don't have anything attached to this.
That was a replacement cover.
T, this is a cover.
That was, that was just a, the term on the very bottom of the first page was corrected. That was handed to me at like 4 o'clock when I came up. The
Let me ask
next,
a question about that.
sir.
Just, is this moving towards an effort to, as far as EMS contract goes, to do this in-house? Are we continuing to train and build capacity around that, or is this?
It's a requirement of the SAFER grant to have them be EMT certified. It's also just a good practice for us because firefighters respond to a lot of medical emergencies, and it's just good to have them trained. So it has nothing to do with our contract with the medical center to provide EMS services.
U is a contract with Millennium Communications to furnish, install, and configure security cameras for the Department of Public Safety, Division of Police through the interlocal purchasing system.
So now you, what's his name? Brian?
Yeah.
I have a concern is you.
You?
Yeah. 10U?
The CCTV.
Yes. Because I spoke with a couple of places and so-and-so. When you see that the specification of the camera, it's like a 5 megapixel. And they're wondering is that in the market they're available 4K quality HD, full HD.
Sure.
But the people ask me why they use only 5 megapixel that the camera. Can't you explain to me why? Seems like to me they like a less sale for item for something they're not going to use it. As I'm not feel comfortable because most, even my home security camera is 4K. And we talk about the city with all kind of weather outdoor, 5 megapixels, and not only that, 24 hours operation, especially nighttime.
Yeah.
5 megapixel is a very low grade.
I will, I again apologize for public safety not being here because they're at a Gold Star family event. I will say though that these cameras are a significant upgrade for what we've had. I've personally, firsthand, gone to the communication center to look at the resolution, and it's phenomenal how clear the resolution is. Yeah, it's really good. The zoom is different, so you'll notice that before we used to have like a single camera that would move and zoom, and now they're positioning them in fixed positions that cover certain different directions of the intersection. So you really have really good clarity with these. They're really good at night. Agreed, though, that there are better resolutions out there. There's a cost-benefit piece of this, too. Do we want to spend a lot more money for maybe a marginal increase in quality? Although I will get you more information exactly. I'll get a statement from Public Safety why they're going with this camera.
So the reason I'm asking if a 5 megapixel is a 5 megapixel.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? It's a 4K, it's a 4K. So it doesn't matter how good that they say it's great, but it's still 5 megapixel.
Sure, yeah, and I guess a perspective is if you have a TV that's 720p versus 1080p, you may not know this the difference, even though there is a higher resolution available. That's part of it, but I'll get more info on this. Yeah, sure.
Or both.
One other thing on you,
Yeah.
I had reached out to Director Shea, would love if you could help me with this.
Sure.
I'm trying to understand what our current guidelines are for like the use of this footage. So, who can access it, when are they allowed to access it, trying to kind of balance security concerns and civil liberty concerns. And, as we expand the camera program, I just like that information. I reached out a couple weeks ago, but before voting on it, I'd like to at least to receive that. So you can add that to your request information before a vote.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Okay, V&W to Software House. Sir, we're purchasing and delivering with service, and the Isilon storage units under state contract. So V&W are related resolutions for our Public Safety Communications Center. We did X, Y,
Which is
Z.
the question was on the servers on V.
Yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Didn't like a couple councils ago we approved a different server resolution?
It was, I can't remember the difference. It was a different server. This is an upgrade to, there are multiple servers that we procured over many years that are produced by multiple brands. And so we're upgrading them separately.
I'll maybe email Bob and just ask for a little bit more information about what's different here.
Okay.
X, Y, Z, Z1, Z2 were done. All right, which one are you pulling?
We're pulling Z3.
Z3 is withdrawn. Z4 is the law firm of Goldberg, Mackler, and et al. To represent the city in a pending foreclosure matter involving the property at 227 Clinton Avenue.
So now, the business administrator, doing me a favor. I think this is one of the problems that we face, and not only myself, maybe I'm the only one.
What number? What are we on?
1Z4.
Okay, when they, admission side, when you withdrawing any items,
Yeah.
and then like 2 weeks later or months later, and they bring back, we don't know actually why they drawing.
Sure.
So, why they bring back waiting for 2 weeks. So if we withdrawing Z3, can't you explain to us why they're withdrawing? Because, there may be invoice not incomplete, you know what I'm saying?
Okay.
So something we should be aware that. If it's a, yeah.
Council, Z3 is being withdrawn. There was a discrepancy in the amount of the contract that was drafted and prepared. We are taking the additional time to review and get the correct amount in.
And you'll probably see it in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So you'll see it again in 2 weeks with the correct number.
We did Z5 with Carmen Gandula. 6 is a resolution authorizing Department of Public Safety to utilize property owned by the city of Jersey City. That was withdrawn. That's for our
Z6 withdrawn.
That's for the ponies.
We're still finalizing the details of it, so it'll come back. We can talk about it when it comes up again, so if you wanna.
Going to cost us.
Yeah,
And
so-
I'll be honest with you, I was with 40 cops this Saturday, and this is the most ridiculous thing in the world.
We'll get you more information when we're still preparing, so.
Councilman Richie Bugiano brought the concern, but let me have brought some different concern.
Can we discuss this when it comes up for,
No,
actual
you
consideration?
cannot. I have to nail down now. Because when the mayor texted his Twitter, he mentioned to that, we have a budgeted money. But when we did, they talk about 2018 budgeting, we never talk about the build the stable, we never talk about the putting that the special training, mountain police officer, so on. So now, maybe you didn't explain to us that when you talk about police budget, police director and so on, so they never talk about the build up the stable. Now, May, when you text to that, budget the money is available, so now, either one, mayor,
Yeah, so when we talk, when we're ready to put this forward, we'll have answers for all that for you. I promise. I promise. I promise. Yeah, yeah.
Battle when we get there.
I-
Z8, settlement of the action entitled Hector Ponce v. the City of Jersey City, Jersey City Police Department and Department of Public Safety.
There was a memo that was circulated. Did everyone get it?
Anybody get it?
To be honest, I got a few of them, and I'm confusing which ones are.
We've had several settlements in the last couple of weeks. I'll coordinate with Marlene to make sure you guys have it fresh, so that way I'll be able to see it. Any questions, feel free to let us know.
Authorizing a license agreement with the redevelopment agency for the use of 693-701 Newark Avenue and 30 Cottage Street for parking. It's 7:42. We have a motion to adjourn at 7:42 by Councilperson Waterman, seconded by Councilperson Ridley. To adjourn, Councilperson Ridley, Prinzary, Bajano, Yun, Solomon, Waterman, and Lavaro, Robinson, and Rivera absent. Good night, everyone.